like to call to order the special meeting of the Wall Township Board of Education for Monday, August 8th, 2022. Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Smythe, could we have the sunshine statement and roll call, please?
Yes, this is the Wall Township Board of Education meeting for which adequate notice under the Open Public Meeting Act was provided by a notice to the Co-Star, Asbury Park Press, Township Clerk's Office, all Wall Township Public Schools, and in the Board Administration Office on July 14th, 2022. Take a roll call. Mr. Buffa.
Here.
Mr. Hall.
Here.
Ms. Hodnett.
Here.
Mr. Maliv.
Here.
Mr. Nasser.
Here.
Mr. Sanfilippo.
Here.
Ms. Stites. Here. Mr. Wondrak. Here. Mr. Anizio.
Here. Thank you. All right. At this time, we will open up for public comment on any school district issues. Please come up to the microphone and give your name.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nick Zupko. I was here at the last meeting. Just a quick review of the problem we're having. My wife called Allenwood Elementary School on January 20th, requesting information about registration. She specifically inquired about the kindergarten registration, which is first come, first serve, and preschool registration, which is first come, first serve, and if that was the same for kindergarten. The response that she received was no, parents register as late as August. At the time, my wife was finishing up her master's degree. She's also a public school teacher, so she was rather busy. So she waited a little bit farther down the road to register our daughter. That being said, as of now, we haven't been told anything further, but our daughter is being sent to Old Mill. That's a big problem for our family because we feel as though it isolates our daughter from the neighbors and all the kids in the neighborhood, as well as the hardship it creates on our family for transportation. We also have another child, my son, who's 2 years younger, and at this point in time, I'm not sure if he's not going to be going to a different elementary school than my daughter, which is not something I would ever thought could even happen. After the last meeting, I did have four board members speak to my wife and I after the meeting on their own time, and they asked for some time and patience, and I completely agree with that. I'm not sure if they knew of the situation at the time, and I'm more than willing to give them the time and the patience for that. They stated at the end of our discussion, they stated it was up to the superintendent. Since the meeting, we've spoken to Dr. Richens, the Monmouth County Superintendent, who informed us to ask the board to waive the class size policy. And he stated that only the board has the discretion to waive the policy. I'm here tonight just to see where we are with things, if we're moving along, if anything has changed. And most importantly, I'd like to thank those board members who took the time took their own time to speak to me and my wife after the meeting, the last meeting. We were here for about 30 to 35 minutes after the meeting. And that's their own time, and I really do appreciate, as well as my wife, we really do appreciate them giving us their time. We'd also like to thank our community for the overwhelming support that we've received on this matter, and if we could just get some kind of an update on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else for public comment?
Hi, Betsy Cross. I live in Wall Township. I hope you can give us an update on what those parents are going through. Mr. Richens said maybe look to waive the maximum, so if you can give an update, I'm sure they've probably told you that already, so where are you at with it? You should also check everybody's to be sure that they actually live in Wall Township that are going to that school. Start there, start with the kindergarten class, check everybody's ID. I had somebody contact me a couple of years ago that said when they came in to register for kindergarten, they did not have their proof of residency. And I'm pretty sure it was Kim Keeter, and she said, don't worry about it, give it in another time, and she never did. Now, she did live here, but if somebody's coming in and saying that same old story, that's the only way we're gonna find out. Somebody audit every kindergartner in that school. Start there. You should all have a copy by now. Judge Thornton ruled on my court case on August 3rd. So you should all have a copy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to Oprah when you got a copy. So, because I want to be sure you got a copy and Mr. McKeever and Mr. Smythe aren't holding it up. Because from what I understand from Dr. Handerhand, you haven't discussed anything yet. So I don't even know if you've seen it. The judge ruled everything to do with the Central School trailers has got to be unredacted. Immediately. Immediately. We knew that was the case. Judge Thornton said that 10 months ago. And Mr. Smythe and Mr. McKeever kept holding it up. And to go after me, you used a picture of my son. So, I hope I'm not boring you, Ms. Hodden, that you just seem to be, you don't really care.
I've just heard you say this a lot before, so I was just listening to you repeat the same thing.
Right. Do you know who gave that picture of my son so Mr. McKeever put it in the lawsuit? Yeah, I will. Why don't you answer the question, who put my son's picture and who gave it?
My understanding was it was your profile picture on Facebook, which we have said numerous times in here.
Who gave the picture to Mr. McKeever?
Ms. Cross, please continue.
Yeah. So I've just about had it with all of you. You lost the case. And now my attorney would like $55,000. So if you had called the GRC very early on, they would have told you that you cannot redact those documents. Your investigation was over. You had no reason to be hiding that information. No reason whatsoever. So I want that information tomorrow. Mr. Smythe has everything to do with the Central School trailers. He got the invoices unredacted. It's 8 pages. We do not need Mr. McKeever delaying this until August 19th like he'd like to do now, because Mr. McKeever, every board member here, and the new assistant super, Jennifer McCann, I hope you're going to be on top of this, because these people here aren't. And we've got some major problems, and that Mr. McKeever or Mr. Smythe should pay the legal bills. We shouldn't be paying them. Mr. McKeever should be paying them because we got bad legal advice and you lost. And we need to know if Mr. Smythe sent an email to Ms. Dyer about a student, not a student, a staff member that he thought was gay that he didn't like. Because he's saying there's no email, but we'd like him to say it on the record if Cheryl Dyer has that email right now. So people are fed up with the lack of transparency by the board, and we've really had it. I see you have masks back here. I don't know if you're starting masks again. I really don't know. But you've got to get these documents over. The judge gave the order last week, and you need to start turning the documents over. And Mr. Smythe should be written up, and he should be fired, because now you need an investigation from the Comptroller's Office or the Commission of Investigation, why you were hiding all this information on the trailers, where the trailers came from. Mr. Smythe won't answer where they came from. If they came from Hurricane Katrina,
Ms.
you
Cross,
can
that's
answer
already been
tonight.
discussed and
Hasn't
answered.
been discussed. Mr. McKeever didn't sign his report, Mr. Oscarillo. It's not on business letterhead, and it's not signed. And now he's retired conveniently.
Thank you, Ms. Cross. Your time is
So
up.
get it,
Thank
get
you.
it,
Your time
the
is up.
Comptroller's Office to do it. Stop making excuses.
Is there anybody else for public comment?
Good evening. Carmine Venezia, Wall, New Jersey. I'm sorry, I can't see you too well because I have an eye condition that doesn't allow me to see that far away. So I don't feel like I'm addressing anybody except some shadow. So I wish that it wasn't like that, but that's the way it is. I would like a couple of questions answered. I'm listening to a couple of other parents here, and they seem to have some issues with the board and or the directory personnel in the system not paying attention to the parents. I have the same type of a concern. I would like to know, my son, who's 18, I would like to know from this board why my son is not going to college this fall, even though he had a very high mark on his SATs, and he's been an outstanding student to all of his school years. I can't understand that. And everybody I've asked in positions of authority can't answer me. He isn't going to college this fall. First of all, the system failed him in getting information that he needed to apply for the college. It's just mind-boggling to me. I made 17 phone calls one day to 17 different extensions, got 17 different emails, left 17 different messages, and no one got back to me. I had to go in person with my wife one blistering hot summer day, over to the superintendent's office to try and get to see somebody to respond to my complaints. It was almost like cracking into Fort Knox. Shouldn't be like that. Another time, my wife and I were kept waiting in the hallway of the high school, down the hall here, in the outside hallway, waiting for the principal of the school to be found, the acting principal, for over 2 hours. He couldn't be found. Can you not imagine not being able to be found as the principal of the school in this huge school? Anyway, the next time we went and I got to see the superintendent of schools, Mrs. Dr. Hannery. I hope I'm not mispronouncing your name. Is it Hannity or Hannery?
Handerhan.
Hanrahan, I'm sorry. And I was talking to her about the one particular test that we don't seem to be paying attention to in the school system, which is called SATs. My son came out in the top percentile, 1 percentile in the country, in the nation. And we asked how many other students in this school system, in this past graduation year, did the same thing. We can't get an answer. Is that such a tough question that we can't get an answer? We've asked the board president personally. Ralph, I've asked you. We've asked the acting principal of this school. I've asked Mrs. Hanratty on the telephone. Nobody seemed to be interested. I would like to know the answer to that question. I would also like to know how this school system is justifying a bright, young, personable young man not going to college this particular fall because of lack of information that was given to the schools. We had to go tracing around trying to get information like we were trying to steal something from somebody. It's ridiculous. I can't believe that this school system, like we moved down here from Jersey City, 20 years ago because we felt that this system was a great school system for children. I was on the Board of Education up in Jersey City with 80 schools. We did not behave like this towards our constituents. I think our board president, and maybe some other board members I haven't talked to, so it's not fair, thinks that the people that were hired to run the school on our behalf are the bosses. They're not. The Board of Education is the people that should be making decisions, instructing the superintendent of schools and the authorities how to handle things, not the other way around. We didn't handle it that way. With 80 schools up in Jersey City, and you got, what, 5 down here? I just never heard of a thing like this in my life. I'm sorry to take up your time, and I wish it was more pleasant. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else for public comment?
Hi, Sarah Venezia. I live in Wall Township. Mine's very simple. I just need to know some information. I've emailed people all through the summer. First request, second, third, fourth, fifth. Haven't gotten a response. My son's grades were incorrectly calculated. Ralph, I've even emailed you on it. 5 people, head of guidance, everybody. Nobody responds to me. I'm wondering why nobody responds. My son is that guy's son, so we're talking about the same kid. who basically got 14 plus on the SATs and has always been an excellent student and is not going to college because all of his applications to Cornell, Dartmouth, NYU, Case Western, American, all got withdrawn because the school did not get his transcripts out in time. And he was sick, he was getting home instruction, and there was I couldn't get in touch with people to get in touch with them to get them to send these things out. We finally had to do homeschooling, and now I've got grades such as Jim during homeschooling that has 92 participation rate, but 92% if you're got your gym clothes or whatever they call it, if you're ready, and 100% participation rate. So that's just an example of how do you get a grade like that. So I've been asking, no one's been responding to me. I just want response. Is that a lot to ask? Would you just nod, yes or no, if that's a lot to ask? We're very upset. My son has been in this school system since first grade. He's been honored for high park tests, high everything. And I know that, I have to wonder, like we start our kids, we start testing them in third grade, and we put all this pressure on the parents and on the kids who really start to have testing anxiety and show all kinds of things that are maybe not so positive, but we do it anyway, right? But then when a kid gets an excellent SAT score, we say, like Dr. Handrahan said to us, she's not really interested in SAT scores. How are we not interested in SAT scores? I do believe, if I have it right, your daughter goes to Cornell. How did she get into Cornell if you didn't care about SAT scores? I'm just curious, because I'm a parent too. Or is it just other people's kids that you're not interested in? Because that's kind of the theme that I'm getting, and I'm sorry, again, I don't know all of you, and some of you are amazing, and I know some of the things you've done, but collectively, I'm not seeing a lot of pro-student, let's do what we can for our kids, and I just think if you're in a position like that, you need to have that. I work for a school system, I'm 18 years in, I'm a social worker for special needs kids. You can't be in this without really having your heart in it. So I would like someone to respond to me, one. I'd also like to know why my child was not nominated for the U.S. Presidential Scholarship. You only need to have a 1250 on your SATs and a 3.5 GPA, and he had way above that. We're talking 14 plus on SATs and a higher, I don't even know the GPA right now. I want to know if there were kids that were nominated for that, and why wasn't my son? Okay, thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there anybody else for public comment? Seeing none, we will close public comment. Dr. Handrahan?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Adenizio. Firstly, I would like to address individual student matters can't be, there are several questions that were brought up this evening that speak to individual student performance, academic performance, that we are not able to discuss publicly. I would like the record to reflect, however, that I have spoken with the family. I also am aware that there have been several communications from Wall High School regarding some of the questions that were asked this evening. And with respect to a comment, I have never said I do not care about the SAT. I would like the record to reflect that as well. Tests are just one piece of a student profile that goes through high school. A transcript is another. their involvement. What they do outside of school is another piece of the college application process. So that is one piece. I would also like to mention that there is also the ACT that students take. Some students choose not to take the SATs and opt to take ACT as one of the examinations for the college application process. And there are also a number of other testing measures, of course the advanced placement being one of them as well too, for students that are enrolled or elect to take the AP tests. I also would like to mention that I believe one of the instances, the acting principal at the end of last year was at graduation practice during that time. So that is what prompted a wait for parents to speak to the acting principal at the time. So I just wanted to mention that I am aware of that incident, and that is where the acting principal was at that time. I would also like to provide some information regarding the Allenwood Kindergarten. Since we have met, we have reached out to our district architect to get a room analysis to see how many people each particular room can accommodate, because that is central to increasing the preferred maximum in Allenwood Kindergarten, because there are also room considerations and square feet per kindergartner. So we have asked for an official tabulation on that, and that is my update for this evening with respect to Allenwood Kindergarten.
Ralph?
Thank you.
Ralph?
Yes.
Could I follow up with that?
Yes.
So, just based on my conversation, I'm policy chair, and Dr. Hanahan and I had a conversation, and the way I understand it is Allenwood School right now is using the largest classrooms in the school for kindergarten. Now, when Dr. Richin said that we can waive the minimum, or the maximum, we can waive the number of children in the class. That's true. But what we can't do is go over the state limit of how many square feet a classroom can have. So while he can flippantly say, well, yeah, increase your number, that's great until we actually do that, and then we're in violation over here. So on the left hand, he says, yeah, do it. On the right hand, we're only allowed to have so many things. So we're bringing in the architect to make sure that what we have is officially done, to say this is how many square foot, this is how many children we're allowed, and then at that point we can address if we can decide to waive the board policy and increase the number. So while I think it's disingenuous to say, well, because Dr. Richins said it was, but Dr. Richins, I think, is looking to answer someone's question on the phone, give them the best information they can, and then move on to the next person who's probably on hold waiting for them for another question. So I just think it's not as easy, and I think that's the thing that keeps on here. This whole thing is just not as easy as just waiving it and putting kids in the classroom. If it was that easy, we would do that. And I think that's what keeps getting missed here, is that literally the constraints that we're under is difficult to explain unless you're in it, but I'm trying to do the best I can. So yes, we'll waive the policy, but put 25 in a classroom. But if the state says, well, you can only have so many in based on the square footage of the room, then it doesn't matter if we waive it, they're still going to say no. So again, I know Dr. Hanahan is doing her best. Literally, it's probably the top thing on our list right now based on emails that we see come across our desk. So,
Mr. Hall, I would like to add that we've also, students that geographically are close to the border with between Old Mill and Allenwood that are registered for Allenwood Kindergarten. We have reached out to families to see if we can get any movement if there is a preference for Old Mill. So I do want to just reiterate that we did reach out. to see if we could create some space.
Right, and like I said, and the families that come up here, like I said, my heart really, I feel for them, I really do. But I want them to understand that we're literally doing what we can do, and I wish it wasn't the case, and I hope it all works out. But like I said, I mean, patient. I know that is a bad word, but and again, I'll be more than willing to talk to you after the meeting. But I think, like I said, from my understanding, we're doing the right thing. We're going through the steps necessary to try to figure out the best solution for not only the students, but just figure out the best way we can move forward. I think that's
the date the architect's coming in?
Just also, maybe Mr. Buffa or Mr. Nassar could mention, because we talked about the square footage, that each student, there's a certain square footage that has to be assigned to each student, and then there's also, you have to factor in the furniture as well. And we did have a little discussion about this, so I don't, Tom, could you talk about that a little bit, because since you were at it?
So yeah, we did discuss this in F&F, was it last week? And the state has a preferred number. I believe it's 45 square foot per student, if I'm not mistaken. And basically you just take the square footage of the room, divide it by 45, and that's how many students the state wants to see in there. There is a process in order to go over that. Part of it is getting the district's architect involved. We have to look at the square footage with the bathroom. We have to look at the setup, as Mr. Adonisio mentioned. Different types of instruction are more intensive square footage wise than others. So if a class has a lot of special education students, there may be more square footage required in order for adequate instruction to take place. So it's a moving target. That's the problem, and we're going to work through it. As I mentioned to the gentleman after the meeting, we do need patience, because this is something that you don't just flip a switch on. We have to go through the process. We have to do things legally. We have to go through and make sure we have all our T's crossed and our I's dotted in order to make sure that, for the good of all the students in the classroom, not just your child, we're doing everything we can for all of them.
When's the architect
Thank you.
coming in? What's the date for the architect?
So the Allenwood issue is being looked at, and we haven't forgotten. We're diligently trying to follow all the rules and cross all the T's and dot all the I's, which is important. As to the legal case that was brought up, well, first there was a question about the picture, and we've discussed this. Really, this is going to be the fourth meeting. So for purpose of clarification, Mrs. Cross's Oprah complaint necessitated a virtual hearing. While the virtual hearing was open to the public, Ms. Cross took the unprecedented step of posting the virtual link to her Facebook page without appropriately notifying the court in order to allow the court to make necessary arrangements. At that time, Ms. Cross's Facebook profile picture was that of her son. Her son's picture appeared on each and every one of Ms. Cross's Facebook posts until she changed it. When the Facebook post was brought to the attention of the court, it had the picture of her son attached to it as the profile. When Ms. Cross requested that the post be removed from the court filing, the court asked both parties to consent to this process, which Wall Township Schools did. So that's the first clarification, which I believe that is the fourth time, possibly fifth time we have discussed it. And in regards to the case, as practice, the Board of Education doesn't comment or discuss legal matters. However, we can advise on the following. The judge's opinion and court order were issued last Wednesday, and the board has not had the opportunity to discuss it with our attorneys because we have not had a meeting. While the order contains a list of documents that are to be provided to the plaintiff, it does not contain specific date for delivery of the document. The board attorney is in touch with the plaintiff's attorney regarding a date, although it is anticipated these records will be delivered no later than possibly August 19th. We note that the judge's determination that the board carried its burden to support a denial of access on many of these documents based on the exemptions for attorney-client privilege the deliberative process, and privacy. The order also sets forth counsels of both parties would confer on the issue of attorney fees. And that's all we are going to comment on that.
Right. You
And
lost the
Dr.
case.
Handerhan, please.
You lost the
Please
case.
stop yelling out. Please stop yelling out.
I would like to address another question. I just wanted to do a fact check. This is response to the U.S. Presidential Scholarship with respect to a question about an individual nomination. I just wanted to share with the public that students are invited to apply based on their SAT scores, based on their exam, or on the nomination by a chief state school officer. And that, in our case, would be a member of the State Department of Education. So the nominations are students, by virtue of their scores, are contacted directly by the organization that runs the U.S. Presidential Scholarship, or they're nominated by the chief state school officer, which would speak to the Department of Education in New Jersey.
Thank you. Okay. I think that covers everything. All right, we will move on now to our board retreat. Dr. Handerhan.
Thank you, Mr. Addonizio. Board, in your packets, you should have a copy of a large-scale copy. I know I've given you a digital copy, smaller version of the organizational chart. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention that it will be on the agenda for the August meeting to approve. And I just wanted to give you an opportunity to, because it is a quite a graphic document. I wanted to give you the opportunity to review it in actual paper as opposed to just digitally. So I just wanted to give that to you. And certainly if you have any questions, you can certainly ask this evening. But the crux of tonight is the review of last year's district goals and an update on the strategic plan, where we are on the continuum of the process, and starting the conversation of next year's district goals. So that is our objective for this evening. In your packet, you will see probably the thickest of the documents. It's the thickest of the documents, and it is a review of our district goals from the 2021-2022 school year. And as you will recall, the first goal spoke to, in the wake of the school being impacted by the pandemic, that one of the goals was to strengthen academic and social emotional student supports. So by May 2022, a systemic district-wide process for response to intervention will be strengthened to provide a multi-tiered support structure for student learning loss largely due to the pandemic learning conditions. I would very much like to share with you that the gritty is shared in the table within this document. This document, after this evening, will be posted on our website for public review. But I do want to reiterate that part of this goal was to dig in deep and see how internally we are, what kind of systems we have in place. And as you'll recall, this process led to the creation of Ms. Steiner's new role, the Director of Student Intervention Services and Student Wellness. Her position is largely charged with ensuring that students are identified, students are properly supported, and academic data is maintained to ensure that we are addressing the individual needs of the students. So in the document, you will see specific activities with respect to training, but I do want to add that part of this was the outgrowth of Ms. Steiner's new position. You will also see quite a bit of professional development opportunities for faculty and staff with respect to mental health concerns. You will also see professional development designed to strengthen the pedagogical strategies to meet the individual needs in order to overcome this learning loss. So please, I ask that you take this document home, and I will post this on the website. Another key goal for last year was to begin the facilitation of the strategic planning process. You will recall the Board of Education selected a consultant, Dr. Timothy Purnell. He is the consultant that is guiding us through the process. We have had several meetings with Dr. Purnell. There is a strategic planning steering committee that is comprised of 2 board members, Mr. Adonisio, Mr. Nazar, members of the staff. We have students on the steering committee, and we also have parents that are members of the Wall Township Public Schools community. And we have crafted as you know, a strategic planning community-wide survey. That survey it was sent out in the end of June, middle of June and July, and it recently closed, and we are starting to unpack with Dr. Purnell. He's maintaining the data, and we're starting to unpack some of the key items that came out of this needs assessment survey, and perhaps arguably the richest is from the comments themselves, where individuals of the community were able to provide specific feedback to certain areas, but also gives them a voice to share specific concerns that may not have been addressed by the survey. More to come with certainly the ever-building report with Dr. Purnell, but I will share that when school opens, we will be facilitating focus groups, Dr. Purnell will, with every faction of the Wall Township community to get further information and to really bring some of the comments to life so that we can really create a responsive documents to reflect the priorities of this community. The next priority of last year's strategic goals is all of the preparation required for a referendum vote in December of 2022. As you know, there was a tremendous amount of work, especially with the F&F committee, working with the architect, the business office, working with the Department of Education, and we'll be discussing a lot on this in the very near future with respect to the referendum and where our identified projects are with the NJDOE approval. So stay tuned specifically on that. But as you review the document within, and certainly, what we've been working on all year, you will see that we have indeed been making some benchmarked progress towards moving to that referendum vote in December. I would also like to point out that what our strategic goal, our 4th goal from last year, speaks to improving intra and inter-district communication. And I would very much like to invite Ms. Daniel up to the podium so she can share with us some of the many of the tasks she was charged with this year as serving as a district leader, certainly in the areas of digital communications. So without any further ado, I would like to invite Ms. Daniel, welcome, and invite her to the podium.
Thank you so much. I'm actually going to log on to the computer if that's okay.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Dr. Hanrahan?
Yes.
Just a point of clarification.
Yes.
So the goals listed here run until June
30, 2022.
Okay, so that's why none of the summer programming from this year is listed.
Correct.
Okay, but
Correct.
we're still offering all of those programs.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And they would be on next year's report effective after July 1st.
Okay.
And again, this document will be posted under the district goals tab for tomorrow after the board had the opportunity to peruse the document.
I will be doing it from the podium this evening because the computer is not hooked up. But you all have a packet in front of you. Mr. Algor, it's fine. Thank you. Sorry about that. However, the slides that I was going to present, you have in your packets. So throughout this last year, in alignment with Goal 4, we've been working diligently in redesigning our website, as you well know, with presentations that have been made before. And with this website redesign comes a new domain name, wallpublicschools.org, a new hashtag, walltogether, and streamlined communications. We will have new building-based websites that will be launched toward the beginning of the school year, probably, hopefully, next week, as I'm continuing to build each site. You saw the soft launch of our district website at the end of June, and I'm continuing to build content on each of those sites. The streamlined communications system includes the website, an upgraded mass communication system using Blackboard, an ally tool with Blackboard that ensures ADA compliance, and an app that will be available for parents to access the website on their phones. The website itself offers new dynamic multimedia components. It will have an intranet for employees to log into for employee-only material, streamlined content creation and sharing between departments and buildings, and the integration of new social media, including a new district Facebook page and a new district Instagram account. All of those accounts, the Facebook, Instagram, and district Twitters, will all use the handle @WallTWP Schools to keep consistent branding. With that, you'll find a page in your packets with a district logo refresh. We've been working on refreshing our district logo. Each building will retain their building logos. I presented to the C&I committee last Thursday evening and shared some draft logos with you. 2 front runners, they're circled on the ends of this page. Do you all have this packets, I hope? Yes? Okay, good. Wonderful. The 2 on the ends are circled. Those were the front runners. And if you turn to the next page, there's 2. And the star next to the one that the majority of the C&I committee members preferred. So those logos are there for your review as well. And your feedback is welcome. So as the next week or 2 progress, you will see more Wall Together in all of our websites and our social media, and we will be moving to the wallpublicschools.org domain through both our emails and through our websites. And I look forward to being at the next board meeting where I can present to you the websites. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Daniel. I would be remiss if I did not stress the huge amount of time Ms. Daniel has invested in really developing, taking a lot of the feedback from the district-wide committee that we had for the website to really try to create really a landing place for all of our district communication. And it's a huge undertaking, especially when we have a commitment to ADA compliance, which, our website, if those of you that are on our website, we house a lot of documents on the district website, so it is a very time-consuming task, really shooting towards ADA compliance. At this point, I would like to share the purpose of tonight. This evening is a special meeting. It is not an actionable meeting. It is a meeting where it's an opportunity for the board to get together as a whole. When the board gets together in the whole, it's a public meeting. So this is where we talk about the goals from last year, which I just discussed, and our accomplishment of the goals, and to address any questions or use this opportunity to engage in conversation about the goals. It's another opportunity to share where we are in the strategic planning process. I wanted to do that this evening as well too, and I also wanted to start the conversation on next year's strategic goals. So this is a meeting of the Board of Education for the board to do its work as an entire board, and because it's the entire board, the public is invited to observe the board activity. So I just wanted to take pause and to share really the purpose for this evening. The strategic plan, where we are in terms of strategic planning. We are, as I mentioned, unpacking the information that Dr. Purnell has gathered through the surveys. And I would at this point, I think it's fair to share, and Mr. Adonisio and certainly Mr. Nazar, if you would like to chime in on this as well, because you are on the steering committee with me. But there's certainly some commonalities that Dr. Purnell has really identified, as well as the steering committee. And some of that is communication, and to improve inter and intra-district communications. That is an incredibly, it's a very important goal, whether it's on the strategic plan, whether it's a district goal or not. We are looking to continually improve. And that is why I asked Ms. Daniel here to give the board a basic update on all of the things that were accomplished and what is to come, because the new website will be unveiled to the community about the third week in August, and Ms. Daniel will be presenting on that at the August business meeting, where we do take action on August 23rd. Another is community partnerships is another area that was illuminated in the process. School climate, culture and climate was another area. Code of conduct, to look into, what is expected of students in terms of student code of conduct. And also to, there's a need, obviously, for transparency in the district, and there's a need also to educate when, some things are just not for the public, for the public purview. So to date, that would be an overview of the themes that we have seen so far. So communication is certainly an enduring goal that I would predict will certainly be one for next year, but I think it's a multi-year goal, and I think it's something that we have to continually work to improve, and that will be a multi-year goal. One of the things that was interesting is the preferred means of communication, and the communication, one of the preferred that came through certainly was Twitter. We've been maintaining our Twitter account, but also Instagram and Snapchat also, and TikTok were pretty high on the list too. So I don't know if I have the grace of which to put together district TikToks, but that's something perhaps there will be professional development on, and I can wrap my head around it a little bit. So we are moving forward. Meetings will be scheduled for the certainly in September and into October. Our goal is to have a finalized strategic plan by January. So that is a multi-year, 3-year strategic plan. So I just wanted to give you that update.
Dr. Handerhan?
Yes.
Just so everybody knows, fairly interesting, the 2 lowest forms of communication are email and by phone.
Yes. Nobody wants to hear from me.
Yeah, nobody, people don't want emails and they don't want phone calls. So TikTok was higher than that.
Yes.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I have a question. In just thinking about all the social media that makes some people's heads spin, they will be connected in their message, correct? So, you know, if we have 5 different social media accounts and something was posted, it'll be...
Yes, it posts out. You publish once and it sends to Facebook, it sends to Instagram. I don't believe it sends to TikTok yet, but
Yeah, I was just
but
thinking.
it does
like-
push out. So when we do an update to a website, if there, certainly in snow emergencies, we want that kind of information to get out quickly. So instead of having to update and send out information from multiple platforms, it will be sent out more efficiently through the new website. And this also is necessitating the creation of a new Facebook page that will be unveiled in the August business meeting, as well as the Instagram. So, you know, we have a lot of really exciting things moving forward. Another means of communication is the attention. One of the things that, from certainly hearing feedback from Board of Education meetings from the public, from conversations that I've had with families, with students, especially with families with children in multiple buildings, it was, we need to be able to find information in the same spots, because there was a lot of building level really decisions on where to house information. So we're trying to streamline that. So when you're looking for the lunch menu, it's in the same spot on every single website. Now, another thing that really the public had asked for is consistent messaging from the buildings that's equitable. And one of the tools that Ms. Daniel actually introduced to the district and is setting up the training for is the use of a program called SMORE and essentially it is a digital newsletter for all of the schools. And I think this is going to be an excellent means of communication for families because, you know, emails can certainly get overwhelming. Social media posts can certainly get overwhelming. We kept hearing over and over again that it would be great if all of the information was in one place from all of the upcoming events. If a fundraiser, the last day is next Friday, it's identified in an easily retrieved manner. Picture Day. We want to be able to go to one place to find out when Picture Day is. So, you know, website calendars, especially at the secondary level, when you throw in varsity athletics and sub-varsity athletics, it can be a little overwhelming. So SMORE is going to be a great way to start the school year and try to communicate more efficiently for the families and the students and certainly the faculty of this district and staff. Any other questions? Okay.
More to come on that?
That was funny.
Ms. Stites.
Dr. Handerhan, are you able to just kind of give us an idea? Did students actually participate as, I know the survey was open to our current students.
Yes.
Did we have student participation, and if so, any?
We did have student participation. Dr. Purnell indicated that we had over 1,500 responses and about 200 were student responses.
That's great.
That's TikTok right there, right?
That could be. We had 200 votes for TikTok or Snapchat. Well, I don't know if they want to see the superintendent / acting principal in their TikTok accounts. I could be wrong. or Snapchat.
I congratulate those kids for actually participating in the survey because it's nice that we can get some student voices and student input from kids that are actually enrolled right now. So,
Absolutely.
Nice job.
Absolutely. So we did, and Dr. Purnell was actually happy with the return. He was pleased. Extending it a little more than a week than we did certainly was able to get one final push out there. And I think we reaped rewards with the feedback in the volume.
All right, I have a question.
Yes.
Are we talking about goals, or is that next?
That's going to be next, but you can, would you like to be the segue, Mr. Nasser?
I'll wait.
Okay, are there any more questions? And again, this is something that, it's a lot to digest, the report of everything that we accomplished. Please, at your leisure, I invite you to go through, see the accomplishments of the administrators, the teachers, the counselors, and the students. Some of the students definitely played a hand in this. So please take a glance at this, and it will be posted on our website tomorrow. Okay. As I mentioned, communication is a goal I imagine will be with us for a very long time. I expect that will also be a priority of the strategic plan. And it is my belief that we absolutely need to continue that on this year's district goals. I mentioned implementing various tools. I think it's incumbent upon us to take pause when we introduce these new tools to see and take stock and find out, is it working, and speak to the constituency to see if we are, with our revised practices, really meeting the needs of the community. So it is my opinion that we continue with communication as one of our district goals. And my intention is to identify the buckets, if you will, for our district goals, and then to workshop them with administrators at one of our August retreat dates to get specific activities and specific objectives to bring back to the Board of Education for further discussion. So I just wanted to lay out certainly my thought process. Another is, we've spent some time discussing it, I discussed it this evening, is we have an awful lot to do to prepare for the referendum vote in December. It is my opinion that that should also, it's certainly, whether it's a goal or not, it's going to be one of our priorities, but I invite you to think about that as being a goal. And the other is to continue our journey of strategic planning and to create a document that identifies the priorities of the community, complete that, and also design that document so that it charts our future district goals. So one of the nice benefits of having an up-to-date strategic plan is to map out year by year, in our case it'll be a 3-year plan, of what we hope to accomplish. And by crafting that strategic plan this time next summer, it's going to be very clear what we will be focusing on in the upcoming year. So we're going to use that as our North Star moving forward to plan our district goals. Are there any questions on at least my ideas? Any other ideas? This is an active conversation. Yes.
So, do you want to go first? You sure? I have a question about the strategic planning process.
Okay.
So that's going to provide us with community feedback about where our focus can be moving forward.
Yes.
So it's going to give suggestions for goals. So by listing it as a goal now, we're acknowledging that additional details will be uncovered once we start.
Absolutely, because we received, like I mentioned, over 1,500 responses. That is a lot to sift through, and it's a lot to reflect upon. And there's a lot of But what typically happens is there will be common themes that emerge from the community feedback. And Dr. Purnell will help guide us, identify those priorities, identify the goals, and then we work as a community to really dig down and, okay, well, how do we accomplish this goal? What are the objectives that we need to set in order to help us get there? What are our activities? And that will serve as a framework for our planning as a district moving forward for 3 years.
Okay, and then do you see some of that work filtering into the Board of Ed committees?
Absolutely, absolutely. As well as faculty meetings, as well as department meetings. So if a strategic plan is really developed with the integrity that we're looking to do, it will permeate every aspect of the school. The student advisory committee, certainly at the high school, I can speak for that personally, that they will be involved. So it is every group, every interest group, every focus group has a voice. They have a voice through this process. And we intend to to continue this process with fidelity. And I, for one, look forward to seeing all the feedback, digesting it, and really looking towards the future. And that's what this document is going to enable us to do.
Okay, thank you.
So 50,000-foot view, to build off of your question. Strategic plan sets the overall vision of the district. We take the strategic plan, translate it, and set strategic goals for the administration. The administration then sets tactical plans on a year-over-year basis in order to achieve those overall goals and the overall plan. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did, Mr. Nasser. Excellent. You must be on the steering committee.
Yeah, I've done this once or twice. So I'm looking at the proposed goals, and we have strategic planning stuff, we have referendum stuff, and we have communication stuff, not to be too specific. Last year, we had some social emotional support and academic support in our district goals.
Yes.
Can we include something to, I mean, obviously this is kind of like, we're kind of stuck in between.
Right, the strategic plan, because they certainly, I have a feeling, will be.
How can we bridge that gap?
Okay, well,
from now
I feel confident. I would be stunned if social emotional learning and some of the academic needs are not embedded within our strategic plan that we'll be authoring. I would be stunned. So I'm very comfortable actually parsing out socially and emotional learning and the academics, because we are indeed working on them. And I wholeheartedly believe that that will become one of the a major subset of the strategic plan. So we can definitely lay it out.
Okay, so
and set it up similarly to last year.
Okay, so we can get a jump on
Yep.
the strategic plan.
Yep. Any other priorities?
I would like to echo what Adam said. 'Cause in looking at the goals that we revisited, I think that's why I brought up the summer, because on curriculum instruction, we're always talking about what's coming. And a lot of the work we did was just to kind of lay the foundation for the work that we're going to do. So I'm thinking like specifically about like the Orton Gillingham, like we're only on our second round of training for that. How are the teachers going to use it? The math interventions. And then also thinking not necessarily always about need or deficit, but just growth and development.
Okay.
Right? So, go ahead.
All right, so is the board comfortable with calling back goal 1 from last year, which reads, the district recognizes that well, I can even scratch out the pandemic, because in the past it was written as, the district recognizes that the pandemic has impacted the Wall Township Public Schools community. As such, the district will strengthen academic and social emotional student supports. And at this point, this is where we focused on RTI, and that was Ms. Steiner's position that I was discussing. We also stressed professional development within both of those areas, social emotional learning and academics, and also professional development opportunities to strengthen the teaching strategies because it's a different day in the classroom following the pandemic and getting things back to normal. So, and normal as we know it now. So is the board comfortable with adding a fourth goal, which is essentially just a revision of goal 1?
Without the mention of the pandemic?
Yes, yep. So the goal would read, the district will strengthen academic and social emotional student supports, and then I would workshop this with the administration to dig deep into what kind of specific objectives and activities.
And then just one little nitpicky thing.
Yep.
Can we remove where it says to overcome learning loss from the previous goal and just focus on just individual differences or growth and development of students?
Which page are you on, Ms. Hodnett?
It's
first page?
It's
The cover sheet?
Yep, the cover sheet. It's the first goal. I love the goal. I just don't want to focus on learning loss. I want to focus on just what individual students need.
Absolutely. So it's
Professional development opportunities will be provided to strengthen pedagogical strategies to meet individual students' needs.
period. Got it. Yep. Can do.
Dr. Henry.
Yes.
Regarding that, with Ms. Hanna just mentioned, since this was a previous goal, perhaps maybe we should just mention in there, the district will continue to strengthen. Since we've done so much already, it should be indicated that this is an ongoing thing, that we've already done a lot and we're looking to continue to do more.
Absolutely. Excellent point. A tremendous amount of work has been involved, has been done. Any other thoughts?
We should mention something in there about identifying anybody that has a penchant towards violence, has a mental problem. We have the teachers see it. We have the safety officers. And get this person help.
Okay. Now, to that, I'm sure everyone has seen in the news that we are charged with a threat assessment team, the development of a threat assessment team, where that will absolutely be a major focus. And to just, I think it's a good process because I think we constantly have to be working to see how we can support our kids best. And, if you put a pin in it and revisit it and revisit it and revisit it, it's a definite priority, as it should be. So thank you, Mr. Wondrak.
Anybody else?
Okay. All right. Is there anything that, as far as moving forward with planning, strategic planning, district objectives, any priority that was not already discussed? So we're looking at setting up drafts of 4 goals that I'll be workshopping with the administrators this month. And I'll be bringing you a draft document with more detail per the goals that you identified.
Thank you, Dr. Handrahan. Any board members have anything else?
I just have a question.
Yes.
So when you share the goals with the administrative teams, would they be adding objectives related to the goals? Would they be offering language to tweak the goals?
Well, they would be offering objectives to support the established goals.
So thinking about their own buildings and their students, that'd be great.
And oftentimes the elementary principals will work together, secondary principals would work together, especially with grade level appropriateness. So yes, that's how that works down. And this is where a lot of the discussions on, maybe which types of guest speakers we can bring in, various assemblies to support the students, the different type of assignments, maybe perhaps some field trips to support. So there's a lot. This is the conversation where the goals we start getting creative to see how we can make it a reality in the classroom.
I have one last question. So you workshop it this month. When would we be able to see that?
We would go review it in the September. The curriculum instruction would review the goals pertaining to curriculum instruction in committee. Facilities and finance would certainly see the referendum and the strategic planning as well. And then, probably I would love a September vote. That's my goal. The backup plan would be October.
Anybody else?
I'm sorry,
No, go
just
ahead.
one more
It's okay.
question.
That's
We
why we're
talked
here.
about it in curriculum and instruction, but I'm just reinforcing it. So all the work we did from our previous goals related to the Mental Health Association of Monmouth County, I know we did work with them this summer. They're going to be continuing with us for next year?
Yes, and we are contracted for next year to work with them. One of the things that we discussed in curriculum and instruction is working with MHA. Ms. Steiner did a terrific job, really as our liaison with them, to work on trauma response to the very sad things that school districts have to face. But it's a manual, and it's incredibly helpful for our district leaders and staff, and really ensuring best practices in response to a traumatic event.
And then the Lifelines curriculum will continue?
Yes, the Lifelines, absolutely. And the trauma response is rooted in Lifelines. And Lifelines, there is additional training that is set up, and there are already curriculum workshops set up for that to ensure fidelity to the program, because it's incredibly important. And for those of you that may not be on CNI, that is the prevention and postvention response mechanism and curriculum to largely suicide. It was originally developed for suicide, but it is applicable to really any trauma that schools face. So it's applicable
What I
across the board.
particularly loved about some of the conversations we had in curriculum and instruction, I mean, for the high school especially, like working on building trusted adults so that
Yes.
students know who they can go to if they have something they want to share
Right.
or need support. So
Yeah.
that was all part of it.
Yes, that's one of the early lessons in Lifelines is identifying and making sure that you have the contact information for trusted adults. And the trusted adults can certainly be student personnel, family members, community members, and so that is key, because the students need to understand that they are never alone, and that there's a trusted adult, and there is help. And how do we get the help? And it's really important that the students understand that.
Great.
Any other questions? Seeing none, could we have a motion to adjourn? Motion, Mr. Watt? I'm sorry, what? Oh, wait, oh, there is.
Am I seconding
Oh,
or no?
timeout, 1 second, I'm sorry, hold on.
Any update on the high school principal?
Right. No, there's not. No, because, yeah, okay. I'm sorry. Mr. Sanfilippo, that was you, second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay, thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.